welcome to Big Muddy Mayhem, the podcast where we talk about true crime and bad behavior in the Midwest.
Each week, we'll bring you true stories from the heartland that might break your heart, but we hope to entertain you along the way.
I'm Janet O'Brien.
I'm Tracey Laricha.
Hello!
Hello, Janet. How are you?
Okay. The best I can be.
Right. A busy week for both of us.
Yes.
This is going to drop on...
tomorrow on...
Friday, Valentine's Day. So, first of all, Happy Galentine's Day.
Happy Galentine's Day!
To you and to all of our Big Muddy girlies. We love you.
Yes.
Happy Galentine's. I hope that you have, like, a really nice big pizza or a sandwich and something sweet to eat. Right. And that you understand that you are all queens and we love you.
Exactly. We're all queens. All of us. So we have two stories today.
We do.
And I get to actually finish.
I
get to finish with a part 4. Oh my God. But it's good. It's good. It's still a good story.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I'm excited. And it has been interesting. If you are just joining us, go back 3 episodes.
Yes.
And listen to Warren Harding part 1.
And then part 2.
And then part 2. And then part 3. And then come back and join us. We'll be here. We'll keep... We've got your seat.
Right.
It's warm.
It's all good.
I'll watch your purse.
So, let me finally finish the story of Warren G. Harding.
Yay!
So, part 4. As we ended last week, we already knew that, the Republicans were starting to lose some of their seats, but they still gained, they still had majority. And Warren G. Harding, while still in office, it's the early 1920s, 1923, and we're still kind of going back and forth on whether or not the economy is going to get better or going to get not. And all of the House of Representatives and the Senate, they go on vacation, and Warren's ratings and start to go back up a little because the economy is recovering some.
Oh, so he's doing something, and we can see the results in our pocketbooks.
Exactly. So Harding, now we're going to start with the decline of Harding.
Okay.
So Harding knew he had health issues as we went in part 1. He ended up going into a sanatorium a few times because of some issues. And, but when he had health issues, he was sick. But when he didn't have health issues, he tended to drink, eat, and smoke too much.
Oh, well.
But by 1919, he was finally made aware that, no, he actually did have a heart condition. And that's why he was going in and out of the sanitarium.
Oh, so he had to, really make some life changes.
Right. So, but, he's not president at 1919, but he knows he has a heart condition. But first half of 1923, he did 2 things to indicate that he felt like maybe we could tell that his days were numbered. It wasn't obvious until after the fact. First off, his beloved Star, his beloved newspaper.
Oh, right.
He sold it.
Catch the falling star, and now he's gotten rid of it.
Yeah, so he, and that... But they did allow him to stay on as editor. He wanted to stay on as editor for the next 10 years. I was going to
say, it seemed like that was kind of the one thing that was so tied to him personally that he wouldn't get rid of it.
No, but
unless he thought that he needed to put it in the hands of someone else.
Right, so he sells the Star, and he ends up making a new will.
Oh. Okay.
So, stress from being a president, and also his wife has chronic kidney issues.
Oh.
Both of this combination ends up debilitating him often. January of 1923, he ended up getting influenza, but he never makes a full recovery from it. He's had it, But he's never the same after that.
Janet, current references only.
I know, right?
It's not like there's a strain of influenza going around right now that might make people...
Bird flu what?
really simply like, oh, Big Bird tried to warn us. He tried to warn us.
As we already know, he was an avid golfer, but by 1923, he had difficulties completing a full round.
The walking?
Yeah.
And the open air?
Right.
And all the bird flu? Or all of the flu?
Right. By June of 1923, Senator Willis, one of the who met up with Harding, said after he met up with him, he's like, Warren seems so tired. Now,
well, it's all that golfing.
Yeah. Early June of 1923, he is setting up for his voyage of understanding, which includes crossing the country, going north to Alaska Territory. It's just a territory at this time. Going south down the west coast, and then traveling by Navy ship from San Diego, going along Mexico, Central America, west coast, and then through the Panama Canal to going to Puerto Rico, and then ending up back in D.C. in August. This is the plan he has planned. Okay,
right.
The trip he has planned.
I do kind of love that we went from Lewis and Clark with the Core of Discovery to Harding with the Voyage of Understanding.
Okay.
I mean, let's all cross our fingers and hope for the ship of comprehension. Oh, please, I'm going to manifest that. The ship of comprehension.
There we go. That's great. Manifest the hell out of that.
All right.
So he ends up on the trip. His political advisors give him a demanding schedule, even though he is requested to cut back on this. He's just like, I'm tired. So he ends up going to Kansas City, Missouri. He goes to Hutchinson, Kansas, and Denver, Colorado. He ends up making speeches at all of these places. As he continues making a series of speeches, he wanted the U.S. to become a member of the World Court. I didn't know there was a World Court. I don't even know if that still exists. But
I'm probably guilty.
And also, he dedicated a monument on the Oregon Trail. July 5th.
He died of dysentery?
No! That's not what he died of.
Dang it.
So July 5th, he embarks on the USS Henderson, and he ends up becoming the first president to visit Alaska. Again, Alaska is not a state yet.
Okay, so Janet, the USS Henderson.
Yes.
And going to Alaska, in my mind, in my brain canon that I'm going to keep forever, he just meets Harry.
Yes, exactly.
As of Harry in the... And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of the only U.S. president that had a Sasquatch as a White House pet. But go on.
Okay. So he ends up going, gets to Alaska. He's viewing the beautiful Alaska from the ship. He gets off the ship, gets on the Alaska Railroad by train, and he ends up addressing crowds in Fairbanks. There's like 1,500 people.
Okay.
It's like 94 degrees heat that day when he does that. July 26, 1923, he ends up touring Vancouver. He's the first sitting U.S. president to visit Canada. Like, presidents have been to Canada, but he's sitting president.
The
at the time.
first actual acting president.
I'm acting president, and I went to Canada.
So some of the other people that were did hold office were there, but not during their.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
So he ends up meeting with Canadian officials. He plays 6 holes of golf before he becomes fatigued.
I think we've all been there. Am I right, ladies?
No.
Oh, just me?
July 27th, he speaks to 25,000 people in Seattle, Washington during one speech. During the speech, he predicts the statehood of Alaska.
Okay.
And he also rushed through his speech and did not wait for applause. So he's clearly really tired. The evening on July 27th of 1923, a few hours after giving his speech, he ends up going to bed early. But late that night, he calls for his physician, Charles E. Sawyer, and complaining about a pain in his upper abdomen.
Oh, okay. So the doctor comes.
Yeah,
he's got a pain in.
Yeah, he's like, oh,
the top of his belly, which is a weird spot.
It is, but he ends up feeling better the next day, and they travel on to San Francisco.
Okay.
When they get to San Francisco, he checks into a hotel there. The hotel is the Palace Hotel. So he checks into the Palace Hotel, and he ends up suffering a relapse from all of his pains and stuff. Like,
so
his heart is bothering him, and now he has pneumonia.
Oh, no. Okay.
So August 2nd, his condition seemed to be improving, and then 7:30 in the evening at the Palace Hotel, Florence's wife, she's holding an article by the Saturday Evening Post, and it's an article about him.
Oh, wow.
And it's called A Calm Review of a Calm Man. It is a flattering article about him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's reading it, and then she pauses, and he says, "That's good. Go on. Read some more." And then within a couple of minutes, he twists, he gasps, and he collapses in bed. Florence calls the doctors, and they're like, "Oh my God." And within a few minutes, they pronounce him dead at the age of 57.
I was just about to ask how old he was, because he was not an old person. You know, like, this was a relatively young man, especially because, given his history, this is somebody who has had access to doctors for the majority of his adult life.
Right, and that heart condition.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, the pneumonia did him in. They end up putting him on a train, and the train travels from San Francisco all the way back to D.C.
Oh, my gosh. Like Lincoln.
Yes. 9 million people line the railroad tracks as he is liked and admired during his untimely death.
Just to see, like...
There's the train. There's where he's going.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
He's after the funeral, he's transported back to Ohio to be buried because, as we know, he's an Ohio boy.
If you had buried him anywhere else,
no,
then the ghost of Harding would haunt wherever the hell you put him.
Exactly.
I don't even believe in ghosts. You guys know that I'm the skeptic.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to stay in a hotel where, like, Harding was buried here outside of Ohio.
Right.
Ooh, Ohio.
So now we are, he's transported. Now here we come to the scandals, because the scandals start to pop out shortly after his death. After death, scandals start finally coming out. Harding had appointed friends and acquaintances to federal positions. Some were good, some were not.
What's that like?
I have no idea. Current times. Anyway. Let's start off with the Veterans Bureau scandal, known to Harding, and he knew about this in January of 1923, which he allowed the corrupt director, Charles R. Forbes, with a, here we go, $500 million cash at his disposal, which would equal, I didn't update this, but in 2021, that would have been $7 billion.
So the magazine? $7
$1,600,000,000.
Oh, honey, we don't even know those Forbes.
No.
Have you ever heard that quote?
Oh no.
All right, so Dorothy Parker, my hero inspiration, want to be just like her. Like Dorothy Parker and Edna Roper. Anyway, she was a Rothschild that was like a distant cousin, and she used to say, like, oh, honey, no, we don't even know those Rothschilds. As though they were the ones.
They were the rich ones. They don't know them.
No, she wasn't from the wealthy part. But anyway, so Forbes.
So, yeah.
Those Forbes?
It might be. I have tried to look this up. I don't know if it's the same family.
Okay.
It might be, but it didn't really connect.
Muddy Buddies, do the research. Leave a note in the comments section.
So, because he has all this money, all this funds at his disposal, he ends up hiring 30,000 employees, which totally makes that area that he's in just the veterans area overstaffed.
Bureau of Veterans Affairs.
Yeah,
right?
he ends up embezzling $2 million in connection with building veterans hospitals and sale of hospital supplies and kickbacks from contractors.
Okay.
300,000 soldiers who were wounded in the Great War in combat. Forbes only allowed 47,000 claims for disability.
No way. That's so...
just bad. Forbes and his contractors went on trips to inspect hospital construction and referred to them as joyrides.
Joyrides?
Contractors...
It's super fun getting your legs blown off.
So
fighting in the Great War that you don't even know is going to be the first of...
But it's joyrides to go check out these hospitals where all those injured people are, right? The contractors and Forbes indulged in parties and drinking. They used secret codes to communicate insider information. Here's an example. There's an inspection trip in Chicago. Forbes gambled on this idea and accepted a $5,000 bribe from a contractor, J.W. Thompson, and a middleman by the name of E.H. Mortimer to secure $17 million in veterans hospital construction contracts. So that he's been bribed, so he's taken his $5,000.
Right.
And then Forbes claims, because this ends up eventually going to trial, he claims, oh no, that was for a loan payment. But these two are like, yeah, no. And they accuse Forbes of having an affair with one of their wives while during the inspection tour.
Oh, wow.
So this Mortimer guy wasn't so happy.
You would think maybe not.
Yeah. He ended up bribing him, but at the same time, then he's like, and you slept with my wife. This isn't going to work for me.
Right.
After the tours, Forbes ended up selling all the hospital supplies at a discounted price. So the $7 million of hospital supplies, he ends up selling it for about $600,000 so he could have the cash.
Gosh. Okay, yeah.
Harding ends up bringing Forbes into his office.
Okay.
Yells at him and says, "Will you have to stop doing this?" And you know what he does? He's just like, "Nah, I don't want to."
Doubles down?
He doubles down.
Oh my God.
But eventually, because, they end up running this investigation, he gets caught. Forbes eventually resigns, and he spends 20 months in prison after his trial. So he actually went to jail.
Did he try fucking the judge's wife? I'm just spitballing here.
Then we have another scandal called the Teapot Dome.
Oh, yes.
You know about this one?
There is a whole lot out there about this one.
So it's basically oil reserve in Wyoming. One of the 3 set aside for the Navy in case there's a national emergency. Before Harding, Wilson's Interior Secretary, Franklin Knight Lane, thought it should be an area that needs to be developed.
Okay.
And then when Harding comes in, his Interior Secretary guy, Fall, feels the same way and says, we need to do something about this. We need to go ahead and develop this area. And so Harding signs an executive order on May of 1921, transferring the reserves from the Navy to the Interior Secretary area. Now, the Navy, they do consult with the Navy Secretary, and the Navy Secretary's like, that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. And then they end up awarding a lease to drill along the edges of the Naval Reserve in California to Edward Doheny. There was no documentation, however. Like, this whole thing was just kind of under the table.
Right.
Like, no papers saying, this is what we're doing. And people started to kind of push back on that and go,
why?
Why and what's going on? So they...
And who's paying for it?
Right. So they end up eventually writing something out, and they give the grant and the drilling rights to Harry Sinclair's Mammoth Oil Company. Sinclair.
Oh my God. Do you remember the Sinclair dinosaurs?
Oh yeah, no, you've seen the video of me trying to climb on one of those things.
Somewhere in this world, there exists a picture of Megan and I on the back of one of them. That, like, it was the last one in St. Louis. And so, yes, there was one college night where Megan and I both climbed atop a Sinclair dinosaur, which, my goodness, also, tell me you're old without telling me you're old when you use a dinosaur as a symbol for an oil company.
Well, they're not wrong.
Right? So let's, Muddy Buddies, please, let's all raise a glass to Sinclair, the dinosaur.
The dinosaur. So anyway, they end up giving him that bid. They don't take any other bidding because since this involves the military, they don't want to do competitive bidding. Mammoth was to build, Mammoth Sinclair was supposed to build.
Also, like an extinct species.
Right.
A little on the nose, okay.
So Mammoth was to build oil tanks for the Navy as part of the deal. There was a push for an investigation, however. 2 months after Harding's death, hearings began. We find out that his new Interior Secretary, Fall, he received $400,000 from Doheny and Sinclair. Fall was convicted of accepting bribes, and that conviction happened in 1929, and then in 1931, he became the first U.S. cabinet member to be imprisoned for crimes committed while in office.
Okay,
So,
well...
apparently you can put politicians in jail.
References only.
Sinclair was only convicted of contempt of court and jury tampering, and Doheny was just acquitted. Now, we got another one, the Justice Department. Harry M. Daughtry, who I brought up in the very beginning of
He
part
was the
one.
one that was encouraged Harding to run for.
Yeah.
Like, this guy would be a great president.
And then, of course,
the
Harding.
hype man from, the very start.
And Harding, of course, gave him the appointment for Attorney General because that's what you do, right? His lobbying and backroom maneuvers were considered to disqualify him from the office he held. February 1924, Senate voted to investigate the Justice Department. They found Jess Smith influence. Here we go. He influenced the government to obtain favors or preferable treatment for other reasons, and usually would get a return payment. So Jess Smith was an influence peddler. He was a part of the Justice Department. And then we also have Howard Mannington, who was also a part of the Justice Department, and Fred Caskey. They accepted payoffs from alcohol bootleggers to secure immunity from prosecution because, there's this thing called...
you scratch my back, I'll
right.
scratch yours.
Right. Daughtry ended up resigning March 28th, 1924.
Okay.
So he ends up. And then we find out Harding had a mistress.
Well, surely not.
Nan Britton. And they end up having a daughter by the name of Elizabeth Ann Blasing. Harding always denied that he had a daughter.
Any kind of an affair, surely not.
Yeah, but apparently back in 2015 we did DNA testing. Totally his daughter. Elizabeth was totally his daughter. Britton, his mistress, ended up writing a book about him.
Okay.
And it was called The President's Daughter.
Well, I have heard of this book.
And it was sold door to door wrapped in paper like it was being sold like porn back in the 1920s. Because everybody wanted to read it.
Surely not. Also, Surely Not would be a great drag name.
Right. So, that's really most of the things that happened, but in the past few years, they have been reassessing whether or not he was listed as the worst president. Because that's how, in the 1940s, they considered him very much the worst president. Mm-hmm. But 2016, a book called The Spoils of War by Bruce Bueno de Mesquita and Alistair Smith, they said during his whole 2 years of being
presidency, yeah,
he had the fewest wartime deaths and the highest annual per capita income growth.
Okay.
The Harding Era by Murray, that's another book, felt that his administration was superior to a sizable portion of anybody else who was president in the nation's history. Per Murray, and this is how I'm going to end it, in the American system, there is no such thing as an innocent bystander in the White House. If Harding can rightly claim the achievements of a Hughes in the state or a Hoover in commerce, he must also shoulder responsibility for a Daughtry in justice and a fall in interior. Especially must he bear sorry.
It's okay.
He must bear the I love it the bonus of his lack of punitive action against such men as Forbes and Smith.
Right.
By his inaction, he forfeited whatever chance he had to maintain the integrity of his position and salvage a favorable image for himself and his administration. As it was, the subsequent popular and scholarly negative verdict was inevitable, if not wholly deserved. Mm-hmm. So because he did not put his foot down as much as he should have, he ends up being, he wasn't trying to do bad things. He just really had a hard time saying no.
It is, and I think now more than ever, we need to pay attention to the fact that our lives are not just about what we do.
Right.
They're about what we don't do.
Right.
They're about the times that you don't stand up. They're
right.
about the times that you don't take a stand. And not to get well, no, fuck it. I would normally be not to get overly political, but let's get political. Now is the fucking time.
Right. Don't be a bystander.
Right. If you see something that is unjust, that is incorrect, that just doesn't sit well with you, that is inhuman, that is infringing upon the rights of others, stand up for those people.
Right.
Because we all need to kind of come together for that.
Right. But that's my story.
That's your story, and that is the end of, my gosh, Janet, you did so much work studying the Warren G. Harding.
I know all about him now.
A little round of applause for you and for this story and for all of us. I've got one that is, well, I won't go so far as to call it lighthearted. But it's going to be a foil to the one that you just told.
I'm excited.
All right.
I'm ready.
I am, oh gosh. Do we have our little plastic people in here?
I don't know.
I think I do. I can hear them. Sorry for the noise, y'all. A little ASMR.
It's a bag full of plastic people.
Oh my gosh. All right, and I'm going to need a bunch of them, so I'm just dumping out the whole thing.
Okay, I'm ready.
You're going to want these because I had to draw a chart making this story.
Oh my god.
All right. Well, Janet, I am taking you all the way to St. Louis, Missouri.
Woo! Oh, I'm
for today. I know. Have you heard of Bob Cuban?
Yes, I have.
Local St. Louis musician.
Yes, very
All
much.
Right. So, I am here to tell you the story of the cheater.
Ooh.
So, Bob Cuban was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1940, and I'm not even going to give him a person because he is not really the main player.
Okay.
All right. So he, throughout the 60s, was a teacher at DeBerg High School. Mm-hmm. He taught music, and he was also the band director.
Yep.
So in 1964, he retires from teaching. He forms a band, Bob Cuban and the In-Men.
Yep.
IN-MEN, by the way. He ends up, he's kind of a foil to what popular music is.
Oh, yeah.
In that, like, all right, everything's kind of going into a counterculture direction. He has, like, an 8-piece brass band that he staffs up with former students. And that is, like, what he does. Like, super clean cut.
Yeah, my grandfather used to go see him.
I know. Well, and they play all over the place. That's something we're going to get to. Hold on.
I think a lot of our grandparents went and saw them because it was their music.
They played on the
music.
Admiral. They played at Gaslight Square.
Yeah.
They played the opening of Busch Stadium.
Wow, nice.
When the stadium opened.
The 64 one?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So anyway, Bob Cuban and the In-Men, they are a popular band. Band is very clean, again, wholesome image for the 1960s. And the singer is not a former student, but a handsome, kind of dark blonde-haired man named Walter Scott.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he looks like
1960 on TV.
Yeah, he looks slightly gingerish, but maybe it's the red background.
He is a little bit, but he's 1960 hot.
Yes.
Right?
He's a nice looking guy.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk a little bit about him. Walter Scott was born Walter Notice in St. Louis in February of 1943. He meets his wife, Doris, in 1959. They marry in 1963, so they hang out for a few years. They marry, and then shortly thereafter, they have twins. That might be why they got married. I don't know. But, so 1963, Walter, he's married, he's got Doris, he's got 2 twin babies. 1964, Walter goes from being a crane operator to being the front man of this band.
Wow.
Bob Cuban and the In-Men.
Wow.
Right? They tour a lot. They are staples, like I said, in Gaslight Square. They play at Club Imperial, which Ike and Tina Turner made famous.
Oh, wow.
And then they play the opening of Busch Stadium. In 1966, though, is really when everything catches on. They have a song called The Cheater.
Yes, I know that song.
Look out for the cheater. Make way for the full-hearted clown. Yeah, anyway, that song goes to number 12 on the Billboard charts, and it's on the charts of Billboard for like 3 months.
Wow.
Here is the cover.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's
Do you want to
great.
describe this?
Okay, so there's a guy, and then there's a girl that's holding onto his arm. He's kind of looking away, and then there's these other two girls pointing at him.
This one.
That's the cheater.
Right. So, like I said, this is when they kind of like skyrocket. Shortly after this, Walter is going to leave the band and try to go solo.
Oh.
He has a mildly successful touring career, but The Cheater is going to be like a one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. But that's not the hit that we are here to talk about. Although we are going to talk about some more cheaters.
Okay.
All right, so Walter, like I said, hang on. Walter is married.
Okay.
To his wife, Doris, right? And they've got twins.
Okay.
But Walter, he's out on the road a bunch. And he cheats a lot. Mm-hmm. So one night, he meets Joanne Calcaterra.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Here's a picture of Joanne and a picture of Joanne and Walter together.
Ah, she looks like a Playboy because of the bow tie.
I think that was from a later date picture where, like, yeah. I couldn't find anything to say that she was actually a bunny. I think she just dressed like one night. Uh-huh. All right, so Joanne, she's like kind of off to the side. She's hanging out with Walter. She is a singer in another band, like a backup singer. Okay. So he's on the road. She's on the road. They're on the road together, and the next thing you know, they're in bed together. Like night one. Things get hot and heavy fast. Walter is completely like smitten kitten. Gotcha. Right? Walter leaves his wife and his twin children to go be with Joanne.
Oh my God.
Even though, like, all of his friends, all of his bandmates, all of his, like, his parents are all like, we don't like this girl. Maybe don't do this. But again, smitten kitten, the heart wants what the heart wants, right? So he marries Joanne.
Oh my God.
And then he's back on the road. And he starts fooling around with one of his backup dancers.
Of course.
Right? So the cheater left his wife to go be with the person he was cheating with, and then he left the person he was like cheating with and married to go be with the third person.
Oh my God.
Walter is cheating with the backup singer, but it's okay because Joanne is cheating too. Jim Williams is an electrician that is going to do work on Joanne and Walter's house.
Oh.
But the cheating doesn't stop here. I see you have all these little people.
Already?
Jim is also married.
Of course he is.
He's been married for 20 years.
Oh, Jesus.
And do I have another child? Okay, they have 2 children.
Oh, God. There's a lot of bodies here.
His wife's name is Sharon.
Uh-huh.
So this is Sharon. They've been together for 20 plus years. They've got a couple of kids. One of the kids, his name is Jimmy.
Oh.
So Jim and
Jimmy.
Then Jimmy, but it's Jimi.
Oh,
like
wow.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Right? Jimmy, Jim one night catches Jimmy with not another girl. Like we're like, I think we've got all the cheating now.
Okay.
All right. He catches Jimmy with a bag of weed.
Oh no.
Weed. So he's a good dad. So he immediately calls a friend of his that works with the local police department and has them come over and like break down the door and like take Jimmy away in handcuffs.
Oh my God.
And bring him into adult prison and put him in like Gen Pop overnight and stay there for like 24 hours to kind of scare him straight. After all of that, surprisingly, Jimmy and his dad don't get along all that well.
That's shocking.
Right?
Don't do that.
So here is where things get bad.
Okay. Already.
Are you?
I guess.
October 19th, 1983.
Okay.
It's a rainy night, and I mean, Jimmy is already kind of like in a vulnerable spot.
Yeah. He looks vulnerable. Why? His hands are above his head. He's screaming, why?
It's a rainy night, and Sharon, his mom, I think it's, no, this one.
That's
Sorry.
Mom.
Sharon is driving home. Her car goes off the road and over an embankment.
Holy cow.
The police are there fairly soon. There's a small fire that's like next to the car from where it went off the road. Sharon is trapped underneath the passenger seat.
What?
And they manage to like get her out, and they take her to the ER where 13 hours later she has like irrevocable brain damage, and they contact Jim, and he's like, oh yeah, like we just want to pull the plug, like don't let her live this way.
Yeah.
Everyone is so sorry for Jim.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, poor Jim and poor Jimmy. Right? Like, oh, the whole community is just like all around them. Except for Jimmy. Like, Jimmy is the only one that is kind of like, what the actual fuck?
Oh, no.
Driving home from Sharon's funeral, Jim mentions to Jimmy, boy, I'm really looking forward to being able to start a new life with Joanne.
Oh, my God. From the funeral.
Mm-hmm. But wait, Tracy, you might say, what about Joanne, Tracy? You might say, isn't Joanne married?
Yes.
You might say.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Right.
But wait.
Okay.
December 27th, 1983. Walter is missing.
Oh, no. So both of their spouses are mysteriously gone.
Well, one is
one
actually
is dead.
fully dead.
Right.
Like car crash, embankment.
Right.
Dead. Walter, though, is now all of a sudden missing. Joanne says that he went to go get a battery for his car and he never came home. Now, Walter's dad isn't worried because, let's face it, Walter has been like a hound Like, this man is a dog. He is out there sleeping with anything that he can find on the road. Walter's dad is like, he didn't come home. He probably has a side chick somewhere.
Oh, my.
It's no big deal.
Uh-huh.
The next day, Walter's car, the one he was going to go get a battery from, they find it at the St. Louis airport.
Oh.
Which, I mean, this is kind of in keeping. Maybe he's just, like, he could be in Hawaii, like, knee-deep in some stranger. Right? Maybe he did run off.
Right.
But his name is not on... You remember when we used to be able to go back into an airport and just, like...
Oh, yeah.
Buy a ticket and get on a plane?
Yes.
But there were manifests still then that, like, showed who was on the plane.
Exactly, yes.
His name is not on any of the manifests for any departing flights.
Oh, wow.
So...
Why is his car at the airport?
Right.
Right.
He didn't go anywhere.
Right.
So the next day, Walter's parents, who again did not really approve of Joanne, they go over to Walter's house. And Jim the electrician, not the one that we know, but this Jim the electrician, he's hanging out at the kitchen table with a magnifying glass, going through all of Walter's jewelry and all of his guns.
Oh, my God.
Like your electrician should do for you, right? Walter's dad does note that of all of the stuff that spread out on the kitchen table, Walter had a 22 that he really liked. And he's like, I didn't see his 22 on the table.
Oh.
The neighbors say, oh yeah, Jim, the electrician, we've been seeing him around a lot. His car was here all night last night.
Oh, my God.
They ask Joanne about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Joanne is like, oh, I was just scared and worried. Jim slept on the couch. There's nothing to see here. The next day, Joanne calls Walter's manager and says to cancel all of his upcoming tour dates for the next, 3 months. He has been gone for, 36 hours.
Wow.
At this point, and she's like...
I'll just cancel it all.
wipe his whole schedule for 90 days.
Oh, my God.
A few days later, Joanne and Jim both go to clean out Walter's tour bus.
What?
In a neighboring state. Which, I mean, look, if you have to clean out your possibly missing, maybe dead husband's tour bus, definitely do it in the first, 3 days. And you should bring your electrician.
No.
You just don't know, Janet. You might need an electrician. So bring your thoroughly platonic electrician with you.
Right.
Months go by. Walter's parents are just... They've got a bad feeling.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like, all right, he would have been in touch with someone.
Right.
Walter's mom goes to a psychic. Because desperate people will do...
Desperate things.
Well, she goes to a psychic, and I am not usually, a big believer in this, but in this case, I'm just like, whoa. Psychic says... It's so specific.
Oh.
Walter is in cold, cold water. It's still water. It's not moving. There's something red on top. He's not far from home.
Oh, wow.
Jim, the electrician's house, has a red door. So, for some reason, even though they have not done anything beforehand, Walter's mom calls the cops, and based on this tip from a psychic, they finally decide to investigate Jim's house.
Jesus.
Like the guy that was going through everything that this guy...
Not the fact that he had stuff out. No,
and the guy that is like more or less like moving in to be with the what?
Wow.
Finally now they're like, maybe we should look into that Jim guy. They investigate his place and they don't find anything. So then I guess a few more months pass. 9 months after Walter goes missing, Joanne divorces Walter, claiming desertion.
Okay, yeah.
Like, all right, he done runned off.
Yeah, I'm done with him, right.
And then almost immediately after she marries Jim.
Oh my God. Of course.
Meanwhile, there's a new medical examiner out in St. Charles County, which is where all of this was taking place.
Oh, wow.
Her name is Mary Case.
Oh, okay.
And she's on the case.
Nice.
Right? She is looking into like kind of old, like this just didn't sit with us cases. She's not looking into Walter's case, but she is looking into Sharon's.
Oh.
Remember that car wreck?
Yeah, where she's under the passenger seat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Well, looking at things, Sharon had trauma to the back of her head and she was under the passenger seat. And the driver's side door was wide open and the seat was slid all the way back, even though she was like 5 foot something, like a short lady. And the nurses that, remember how it took her like 13 hours in between the wreck and
passing away.
Yeah. The nurses said that she smelled a lot like gasoline.
Oh.
So there was a grass fire next to her.
Oh.
But the car itself was never on fire.
Oh. Someone's trying to cover something up.
Mm-hmm. So Mary Case gets in touch with Sharon's mother. Mm-hmm. And Sharon's mom is like, I don't know why, but nothing is ever set right with me.
Oh, good. So she's like, yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
So, yes, maybe we should look into it. And so her mother gives permission to exhume the body.
Right.
Which is really hard to do.
Sure, absolutely.
But, so, I mean, years later...
But she wants to know what actually happened to her daughter.
They exhume Sharon's body, and they take a look, and they determine that, number one, she was killed with 2 blows, blunt force trauma to the back of the head that they think was probably from, like, a pipe or similar,
Jesus.
like a blunt object. Sharon's death is reclassified as a homicide.
Wow.
And now, Jim is the only person that is kind of connected to both of these cases, right? Walter, by this point, has been missing for 3 years.
Oh my God.
Meanwhile, in Florida...
Okay.
You remember Jim's son, Jimmy?
Yes.
The one he threw... Yep, you've got that.
I got it right here.
Help me. The one that got caught with like a tiny bag of weed at 14 and then got thrown into full-on grown-ass prison overnight and like maybe didn't like his dad after that. Well, turns out growing up with Jim, Jimmy didn't have an easy time. he did end up with like drug addiction issues and some petty crimes and all of that. And he's in jail down in Florida.
Oh, okay.
But he hates his dad. Hey, Dad, I'm in jail. Say hi, Mom, for me from jail. Well, they talked to him, and he's like, I can't believe you haven't figured it out. And they were like, do you want this reduced sentence or not? And he drops the dime on his dad in exchange for a reduced sentence.
Of course.
And he's like, look, don't be stupid. This man went missing in the middle of February in the Midwest. The ground was too hard to dig. It was the middle of a snowstorm. The rivers and lakes and stuff were all iced over. My dad had a well in his backyard.
Oh my God.
And there was a cistern in the back of Jim Williams' house in 1983, but in January of 1983, Jim decided to cover it up with concrete and then put a flower bed on the top of it.
Not hiding anything here. What body?
Because he was getting ready to, quote, have like an outdoor event, and he wanted to, so the neighbors even afterwards, which, oh my God. I love nosy neighbors because you don't want the kind of neighbors that are like, oh yeah, he was building a flower bed in January.
That seemed kind of
For
odd.
an outdoor event, and that never actually took place. But, so after gaining all of this information, the cops go out and they look underneath the flower bed and ta-da!
Did they find him finally? Yay.
Well, they find a few things.
Yeah. What did they find?
Number one answer. Come on, we're going to play Family Feud.
Well, first off, they found his body.
Yes! Ding, 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 ding.
They probably found the missing gun.
No.
Oh, damn. Okay, you just tell me.
So they find a body that is wearing the tracksuit that he was reported, that Walter was reported to be missing, wearing when he went missing.
Right.
Now he is wearing socks but no shoes, so they think he was probably killed at home.
Oh.
Because if he had left the house,
he would have shoes
there
on.
would be shoes. So there's a body wearing Walter's tracksuit. There is a Ziploc with Walter's ID and credit card number in it. Don't you love it when the criminals, like the one that I told a couple of weeks ago, like, all right, well, like, put a fucking bow on it.
Let me just put the gun that shot him there. Yeah, put everything. It's fine.
Also, the body was tied at the wrists and ankles, and then also hogtied and tied to cinder blocks.
Oh my God.
So even though the body's at the top of the well, there's like rope and then rope attached to a cinder block. But it's been 3 years, so probably like the rope has deteriorated.
Right, exactly.
And that's why he's floating.
Oh my God.
Oh. Now.
Yes.
You can tell when I give you that look. This is our Janet. Janet.
Tracy.
Janet.
Tracy.
Janet.
Tracy.
They ask Jim about this.
Uh-huh.
Jim says that absolutely none of this has anything to do with him.
Uh-huh.
And he does kind of try to blame his son.
Oh my God.
And Jim's big defense, if I were going to shoot a man, I'd do it between the eyes. I mean, tell me you're hillbilly OJ without telling me you're hillbilly OJ. Luckily, neither the police nor the jury agreed.
Yeah.
So in 1992, Jim is arrested, life without parole, 9 years after this murder.
Jeez.
And now this is the part that I found wild, is even after all of this, the judge lets him go for one night before sentencing so that he can spend one last night with Joanne. I mean, talk about a hopeless romantic. What the fuck? Why would you do this? This man has like 2 bodies under his belt, and you're just like, oh, go on. You two go to Olive Garden. Like, go throw one in her one last time, you know?
Oh my God.
Meanwhile, Joanne pleads down. She should be pleading for like on trial for the murder of her husband, but she pleads down because the prosecutor doesn't think that he could get a murder conviction, and he wants her to get something.
Right.
So she pleads to hindering prosecution. She is sentenced to 5 years. She does 18 months.
Oh, okay.
And then she's back out. They never did divorce. I guess Joanne really did love Jim. Like, they stayed together for the rest of their lives.
That's so crazy.
Like, I mean, I guess you have to, like, date a bunch of people and maybe kill a few before you find your one true love.
Oh my God.
So I'm still on my journey, honestly. Jim dies in 2011 in prison after fighting cancer, and Joanne died in 2019. And Bob Cuban, the band leader, just passed away.
Yes, he did.
January 20th of this year, 2025.
Yes, he did.
But that is the long and convoluted story of the cheater. And happy Valentine's Day out there, all you suckers!
Oh my God. I kind of knew about that, but I didn't really know. I mean, I had hints here and there of that, so that is so crazy. Crazy. So I think this is where we take a break.
This is where we take a break, and I am going to go take Janet out back and feed her a box of chocolates that was meant for the presidential office and that might or might not be poison. And we'll be back with What's Nice.
We'll be back with What's Nice. If you enjoy getting muddy with us, here are some ways to help support our podcast. Send suggestions to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to the podcast on the platform where you're listening. And of course, a good review will help us reach new listeners. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment in the comments section. Join our Facebook group where we can discuss the episodes and hear your suggestions. And of course, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, your dog, your cat, I don't know. Just tell anyone. You know what? Call your representatives. Call 3 or 5 a day and tell them about the podcast.
That's right.
That's what we should do. So let's get back to What's Nice. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
And now it's time to do What's Nice.
It really is. It's time to do What's Nice. And it'll be nice to hear about something nice.
Right. So I have done 3 weeks in a row of something in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, it turns out the place where Warren G. Harding passed away is still open and still exists.
Oh my.
So you know what? We're going with that. Because that seems to make all the sense in the world.
Please tell me there's like a chalk outline.
We're going to talk about the Palace Hotel.
Okay.
It was built in 1875. But San Francisco did have a minor earthquake in 1906.
Oh, that's right. Right. Yes.
And so when the structural damage wasn't that bad, but because of the earthquake and causing lots of fires and stuff from things, it ended up catching on fire. The original hotel had 755 rooms. And then between 1906 and 1907, they did open up a smaller facility that had about 23 rooms. They called it the Baby Palace Hotel. Because it only had like 23 rooms.
Isn't that just like a fancy name for a crib? The Baby Palace Hotel.
Yes. 1909, they end up rebuilding, and on December 19th, 1909, it reopens as the new Palace Hotel.
Okay.
Important events that have happened in this hotel. Woodrow Wilson gave a speech in the garden court. They had a garden court.
Okay.
In support of the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations.
Versailles.
I can't call it that. Hi, Sarah. Of course, Warren G. Harding passed away at the hotel in room 8064.
Okay.
Just so you know. 1945, they hosted a banquet for the opening session of the United Nations. January 8th, 1989, they ended up closing for a $150 million restoration.
Okay.
A little over 2 years later, they opened back up April 3rd, 1991. In 2015, they closed. They didn't close, but they did have another renovation where they updated the indoor pool, the fitness center. They updated the lobby, and they updated the garden court.
Okay.
So now this is where we're gonna pull up the actual website for it. It is a very pretty hotel.
Okay.
Like very pretty. Yeah, hold please. There we go. Luxury hotel in San Francisco. It's a Marriott. It is owned by Marriott now.
Well, you know I have one in St. Louis that I'm kind of partial to. Oh, look at that. No, that's gorgeous. It looks almost like a cathedral.
Yeah, that is the lobby. Yeah, there's the bar.
I would feel like I am not nice enough to stay there. That is so lovely. Like, it's too good for the likes of me.
And then Tracy's favorite, the indoor pool.
I love an indoor pool. And a nice giant skylight over an indoor pool.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine swimming in that with the sun, or even like well, it's San Francisco, so not really any snow, but just beautiful, right?
You put a piece of fried chicken in my hand, and I am a happy girl there.
Their accommodations, they have very nice suites. Mm-hmm. So it's just...
Oh, that's nice.
It's a nice hotel.
It's a really nice space.
And it's also a San Francisco landmark. And then, of course, there's the entrance to it.
Okay, yeah, nice arched.
Yep. So and then of course, the name of the bar, that's called the Pied Piper.
Oh, cute.
I like that name a lot.
All right.
So yeah, it still exists. You can go there and stay there. They have all sorts of things. They have like weekend getaways. They have all your typical things that a neat hotel would have. So,
and unlike President Harding, hopefully when you check in, you will also be able to check out at the desk, not in general.
Right. So that's my what's nice. That seemed very fitting.
Nice. Nice. I do not have a photo for mine, but all right. So St. Louis has a long and storied musical history.
Yes.
Bob Cuban and the Inmen, part of it, like I said, they played the opening for Busch Stadium. They played Gaslight Square.
Right.
They played Club Imperial, which was made famous by Ike and Tina Turner. All of that. And so a few years ago, the History Museum in St. Louis had a themed and timed exhibit called St. Louis Sound.
Oh, neat.
Now, if you missed it, then sorry about you. But you're not entirely too late for all of it because
Okay.
they do have St. Louis sound reprised.
Oh!
Yeah.
And this is at the History Museum?
It is. It's at the Missouri History Museum, and it is part of their continuing exhibits.
Oh, nice.
And so they feature all kinds of little details of St. Louis musicians, all the way from Josephine Baker.
Oh, I love her.
I know. Ike Tina, Chuck Berry. They talk a little bit about Nellie. They talk a little bit about Jeff Tweedy and Jay Farrar from Wilco, and also Bob Cuban.
Of course.
No, I mean, you take a look at that list of artists, and I can see so many future stories.
Right.
Because if we're going to talk about crime and bad behavior, we're going to have to eventually talk about some of those people.
Exactly.
But meanwhile, if you're just looking to kind of get an idea of the St. Louis music scene and St. Louis music's history, then you should go to the Missouri History Museum.
Yeah, it's right in Forest Park. It's wonderful.
And then just like pinball yourself around, like bounce around and see the 1904 World's Fair exhibit. We've got stories that we can talk about there.
Forever and a day.
On my short list.
Yes.
But yes, a good way to spend the afternoon and a nice place to be in St. Louis. And also, look out for the cheaters, y'all. My stories today for my story were a YouTuber named Crimestine.
Oh, nice.
Crimestine. Also, a book called Infamous St. Louis Crimes and Mysteries by David Linzee that I have used before and will use again.
Nice.
A website called forensicfilesnow.com. There are, I think, some stories about Walter Scott that are out there on some true crime episodes. And as always, Wikipedia.
Of course.
And my source for what's nice here was mohistory.org.
Nice. Yay.
And happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. I hope everybody, if you do celebrate, I hope you have a nice evening, you know, or whatever you have planned for the weekend. If you don't, you know what? The day after, go to Walgreens because you know why.
Oh no, that's the real celebration.
That's the real celebration.
And single or coupled, whatever it is, I hope that you spend Valentine's Day nice and warm and not at the bottom of a well or dead in a hotel.
Yes. Don't end up like that.
I know. Well, and Janet, oh my gosh, I feel like there's something we're forgetting.
Oh, yeah. Are we supposed to stay Midwest nice?
We should stay Midwest nice.